Citizens of tomorrow, we are very excited to be here today because we get to talk about a successful moon landing. That's right. Early this morning, Firefly Aerospace successfully landed their small lander for the CLIPS program for NASA, and we couldn't be happier about it. So thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. We have an all-star cast with us today. We've got the one and only Jamie Higginbotham joining us, which is awesome. We've got Dutta joining us, who we always appreciate his realism and bringing us back down to earth. We've got Jared Head, who is going to have some awesome thoughts for us later. And we're also joined by Zach Aubert from the Launchpad Network. So thank you very much, everyone, for being here. And thank you for all of you who are here with us today. Oh, man. So who all was able to stay up last night and catch this landing?
I did.
Nobody?
I'm sorry.
My space credit is failing right now.
Nobody? Oh my goodness.
Me too. I should have, but I've got a launch coming up in not that long, and
That's fair.
Yeah,
I know,
but I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it.
I've got a launch coming up. No big. So it's just,
that's a legitimate excuse. That's fine.
Another
That's fine.
one of them. So.
Joni Mahoney stayed up. Joni Mahoney was up.
Good for you. Good. There was only a few of us, but that's okay. Zach, were you able to stay up for it?
Well, I went to bed and then got up for it because knew it was going to be hours and wanted to be productive today. But yes, I mean, all the exciting stuff happens at 3 a.m.
For some reason, yeah, that keeps happening.
Welcome to being a space nerd. It's the universe's way of being like, are you sure you're a space nerd? You gotta commit.
Oh, man. Well, this launch...
Oh, you're sick of daylight savings time, huh? Watch this.
Well... Hey, the universe wants to weed out the weak ones. That's what I'm saying.
Rude.
Time doesn't exist. That's correct. That's correct.
True. That's very true. No, wait a second. Hold on.
So, Mike, I assume you stayed up to watch it. So, what? It did not tip over this time, right? Like, because the first one tipped over, right?
And yes, the first one tipped over, and that was the Intuitive Machines lander, which is coming up their second one in a couple of days. This was the first one from totally Firefly. Right. This is the first one from Firefly.
There are so many lunar landers. I got them confused. You're totally right.
We've got a fleet right now. It's amazing.
I know. Nothing on the moon for like ever, and all of a sudden, all at once, like 3 different things going out to the moon.
It's amazing.
The moon, it's so hot right now.
For Fireflies, though, I mean, it's a short and stocky one. It's about 6.5 feet tall and about a little over 11 feet wide. And they were able to have that support that they needed in order to not tip over, even if they landed at an extreme angle. But something I was really impressed by is that during the landing, they actually had a couple of hazard avoidance maneuvers, which means that their radar sensors detected that there was, large boulders or just, maybe a large dip or in a crater or something like that, and were able to move a little bit in order to have a safe and successful landing on a flat surface. And so I'm really impressed with that. We unfortunately didn't get live 4K video from them. They said they could have, but they wanted to make sure, since this was their first attempt, that they had the strongest amount of telemetry that they possibly could so that they could do things like those hazard avoidance maneuvers and land successfully.
So wait. I'm going to give you 2 notes. First off, hazard avoidance maneuvers on the moon are hereinafter to be referred to as pulling an Armstrong, just so everyone knows. And two, I fundamentally, this is something that NASA got right back in the day, is that they broadcast all of this stuff live, and it doesn't need to be 4K 60 HDR, but you want to see it. And if you want to create excitement over these programs, you have to be able to see it. Video is telemetry too, and it's just as important, and arguably it's the part that inspires humanity. So it's the thing that will help get your funding in the future. It's the thing that helps keep these programs going. They should not have underestimated the importance of live video from the moon, in my humble opinion, as a video person. Obviously, I'm biased. But you see dividend when you do this stuff live, and it's hard because video is just going to chew through bandwidth. Like, the number of telemetry channels you can get in one video stream's worth of bandwidth is insane, right? But that video, people aren't going to remember the telemetry.
No.
The telemetry is not going to win the hearts and souls of people on planet Earth. The video will.
Yeah. You know, when
Yeah.
Perseverance landed on Mars, they had multiple cameras that were recording. And obviously, bandwidth from Mars is not something that's going to allow us to do any kind of like live video at all whatsoever, right? But it was one of the highlights of the press conference a couple days later, where they ended up showing those cameras, where they showed the camera that recorded the parachute deployment, where they showed the camera that was on top of the actual sky crane looking down at Perseverance as it was lowered. They had the camera that was on Perseverance looking up to see the sky crane as it was lowered, and syncing all that together and releasing that together and just blowing everybody's minds. That was the thing that I remember when Perseverance landed, that everybody was talking with me about. It wasn't, wow, we landed another rover, wow, the sky crane the second time. It was, wow, did you see that video from it? So yeah, it's the power of seeing things as they actually are in motion. There's something to be said about that, and it's really exciting. And I wanted to ask actually if they've released like any like panoramas of the landing site yet or not, because if you do, we can actually look at the surface in the local landing site and be able to figure out what those hazard avoidance maneuvers might have been for, because we don't know if they're for boulders or for craters or other things like that. But in the case of pulling an arm, oh yeah, okay, well,
This is
there's
an
a photo.
awesome photo that they returned that is its shadow, obviously. But what an awesome picture that they were able to return of that. So you can see that there is a little bit of small craters and dips nearby. So it might not have necessarily been a boulder, but more of like, oh, hey, one of the legs is going to dip into that, and we're going to be in a bad position. So
yeah,
That's
important to
fake.
remember.
Shut up, Dada. No, it's not.
You look at an image like this, and we don't have any reference points for how big stuff actually is. That's always the hardest problem of looking at images from landers or like from the Apollo missions, is that you really don't have like trees or houses or other things around to tell you how big that is. So that crater, that its shadow is above could be something substantial in size. So
Yeah.
I look forward to finding out from Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter as to where it precisely landed.
So there's another
several, but it could be several bananas deep.
True. And it could be a whale or two across.
Well, here's another cool shot that they had from the top of the lander, and again, it's only one angle, not a panorama view, but I don't see a whole lot of boulders around. But in any case, for this landing near Mare Crisium, they have certainly done a great job. I'm super impressed by this. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and switch to replay of the landing that we can just have in the background as well. So again, they were able to do this. This launched on January 14th of this year on a SpaceX Falcon 9, and was in a tandem with a Japanese lander, the Hakuto R Resilience lander. And that one is going to be attempting a landing in April. But in the meantime, they were able to take 45 days to taking their time to swing around and get into lunar orbit and stay there for a couple of days to make sure that they had as good of a telemetry as they possibly could, making sure that all of the instruments on board were working as intended and that they would be healthy for this landing. And during their press conference this morning, they even said that they did take video. They do have video of this that is in the process of being backed. So I've been refreshing the Firefly page, hoping that they would have that before we went live, but that's okay. In fact, there was an experiment that was angled at the engines to see how much of a dust plume would come out of the landing spot as they were getting closest down. So at the very least, they want to make sure to return that video, slightly different angle than we might be used to, but still providing valuable data from that. So at some point soon, they should be releasing some video, if not at least taking a little bit of video while they are on the surface now. So expect that in the future.
I understand their graphic, but it's a little confusing with the green feet looking like they've got engines on the legs.
And you'll understand that in a minute.
Well, hang on. I'm also confused because, and maybe this is just me being an idiot, but they're marking their altitude as above AGL, above ground level, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the only other version that I'm aware of would be MSL, or like I think it's mean sea level.
Mean sea level.
So yeah, but there's no sea on the moon. So what? What is
There's
this? I don't
still-
understand.
Sea of Tranquility
So-
doesn't count.
Yeah. Help me
Real
understand
quick.
that, Jared. Like, yeah.
Real quick, I
Yeah.
do want to point out that you can see there that 3 out of 4 of those landing legs just turned blue. The reason it was green and then switching to blue was to show contact of when it actually touched on the surface. But Jared,
Just
go
like-
ahead.
Yeah, you don't need the
gonna
green
say-
during descent. Just turn them blue.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's just like the lunar contact light inside of the lunar modules, right? To let them know that they've got, they're within distance of the lunar surface to now shut down the engine, right? So that's what I'm getting from the green turning blue as it lands. But to kind of answer, like, why are they using AGL? Like, why would you even think about a mean sea level
Yeah.
on something like this? Is there even such a thing as a lunar mean sea level? So we do this, basically, we take the highest point on a planetary body and then the lowest point on a planetary body, and then what's the middle between those two? Voila, there is sea level on this on this planet. And it actually comes in very handy in certain places, like, say, landing on Mars, because on Mars we want to use the atmosphere, as much atmosphere as we can. So you'll notice with the distribution of missions that have landed on the surface of Mars, almost all of them are in areas that are below sea level on Mars, because you're able to stay on your parachutes longer by doing that. You might get an extra 30 to 45 seconds undershoot in order to do that. And that's enough time for you to bleed off maybe another like 50 meters per second of velocity. You might end up getting like an extra 20 seconds of time for your landing radar to fire up and get itself calibrated and other things like that. It's like, it sounds really silly that you're going for negative sea level altitude on Mars, but there's reasons that we do that. And actually, things like Skycrane from JPL, our friends at JPL, that's one of the reasons why they're able to open up kind of the places where you could land on Mars, is because they developed a system that could actually handle being able to land very close to sea level or even a little bit above sea level on Mars. Of course, we'll have to see what happens when a new generation of landers comes along and see what they can do as well.
This made me giggle. Jacob Bouchard just said, see, it's level, not tipped over. And also, we are joined, looks like from heaven, from Ryan Caitlin. Thank you for joining us. Are you okay? Did something happen? What's going on?
That's just Ryan, that's just a very sunny day for you in England, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. No, Jared, that is precisely what has happened. Is me not being from South Texas has now realised that outside is bright, inside is not bright, and I set all this up in the last like 20 minutes. So I've done a camera, I've got a computer, I've got a headset, but I haven't put any lights up. But if it wasn't this bright outside, you would be able to see the pad over my shoulder, so I can see it, but you can't. Ha!
Well, thank you so much for being here. That's so exciting that you're in Texas right now, obviously covering the Starship launch for NASA spaceflight.
Yep. I'm currently bunking at the Margaritaville Hotel in South Padre Island, which is wonderful. As you can tell, the temperature is nice inside because I have my hoodie on. It's not blisteringly hot like I was worried it is going to be. And the weather is actually, tolerable for my kind, Any hotter than this, I'll be struggling. So these temperatures are actually quite nice.
I'm sure you're having a nice reprieve from the below zero that you were experiencing in England.
Yeah.
In any case, it's great to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
No
And
problem.
Ryan, a technical note: if you can bring your audio up by a good 9 decibels, that would be
Okay.
appreciated. You're
I'll
very
see
low.
what I can do.
Thank you. But back to your previous point, Jared, that actually is really interesting and a really awesome problem to have, because this means that as humanity starts exploring and going out into the stars, our old nomenclature of mean sea level will have to be should be updated so that we have a new nomenclature, so a new new verbiage to describe exactly what's going on. It'll be the same thing, but enhanced for humanity's journey into the stars, which I think is a pretty cool problem to have.
Yeah, I feel like maybe MTL, like mean topographical level, might be a good replacement for it, but also
This is
like
why
maybe
no, Jared,
MEL,
you're no, Jared, you're
mean
clearly
elevation
no.
level.
No, you're clearly an astronomer. You want to name it like some sort of number that no one will remember. Careful, Jared.
help
Your
it.
astronomy is
I'm
coming out.
sorry.
Your astronomy's showing, Jared.
I'm sorry. I'll go back. Hold on. I'll hit myself in the head a couple times, and then I'll be right back where we need to be or something. So.
Obscurium's constant.
Well, at least
right,
they're not making it out of unobtainium yet. So
back to Firefly. They landed successfully. They pulled in Armstrong, which is very impressive when you think about it, right? Like it's like autopilot, but for the moon. And where are we at right now? Like, what are our next milestones?
So they are going to be able to operate for the next 14 days or one lunar day, and they are going to get to work as soon as they can to deploy some of the other instruments that they have on board. They have a drill that's going to drill about 3 meters deep, and it looks like it has a bit of an angle on it. So even though the lander is stationary, that drill might be able to move a little bit to take a couple of samples, even though, right in the same area. It can still take multiple samples. They also have kinda. They also have a instrument they call the Planet Vac, which is a really interesting thing. How do you get a vacuum in a vacuum? So what it's going to do is it's going to give a puff of air to blow dust around that is then going to be captured into their vacuum collection system to analyze some samples from that. One of the experiments that I'm most excited about is called an EDS, a electrodynamic dust shield, which is creating a electrical charge to mitigate some of the dust collection. And if that experiment works, they are going to try their dangest to put that on just about everything for not just lunar missions, but potentially Mars missions in the future as well. But works best on without any sort of air or atmosphere to push things around. But that could be a really, really cool system to have, to even on spacesuits, your visors, cameras, to be able to get the dust to clear off of it. And that way too, we might be able to have missions in the future where we can land near a lunar base or a Martian base and not be several miles away to prevent dust from accumulating near that base. We could have systems like that to be able to clean stuff off. Anyway, I think that experiment is super cool. They are also looking at the magnetosphere of Earth and looking at the electrical field that surrounds the Earth. I'm really excited about that one as well. And then that's kind of the only ones I'm remembering that I'm trying not to mix up the experiments that are going on the Intuitive Machines lander, because there's some exciting ones on that one as well.
I already did that. I want to touch on, hang on, you mentioned dust. I want to touch on that for a moment because that's really important and not something that we talk a lot about, like in aerospace. Lunar regolith is nasty, nasty stuff. It's like, think of it as like razor sharp sand, right? And so you're breathing this stuff in when you go you're doing a lunar walk, you're outside, and then you come in and you're gonna bring some of this lunar regolith in with you. It's gonna get stuck on the seals of all of these airlocks. You're gonna end up breathing it in. So any opportunity we have to like blow this stuff off or get rid of it before it traverses into spaces. Now, what you're talking about isn't exactly that, but still getting it off of cameras, off of lenses. Lunar regolith is insane.
Get it off the door to your airlock.
Yeah, exactly. This is going to be something we're going to want. I don't know about you guys, but like Mars is neat, but like I want to go to the moon first. Like I want to see an Earthrise. Like I'll take a 2-week trip. A couple of years out of my life is a different commitment, but like a 2-week vacation to the moon, okay. So like being able to figure out lunar regolith and how to make sure that the seals are good and I'm not breathing this in and ripping my lungs apart and all of that fun jazz is going to be important if we want to send humanity to the moon more than just like onesies, twosies.
Someone exchangeable says space asbestos. That's a good analogy.
Kinda.
And that was something they were really worried about too in the Apollo program, of breathing that stuff in and getting too much of it on their suits. And they were tripping around quite a lot on those missions. So it was
Well,
definitely a problem.
it still is something that is considered a hazardous issue that has not quite yet been mitigated, because it's regular. It sucks to breathe in. The Apollo astronauts that did missions that landed on the moon noted that basically as soon as they opened the hatch between the lunar module and the Apollo command module after redocking, after landing, everyone, first of all, the two astronauts on the moon already were having allergic reactions to it, and then the command module pilot, as soon as they opened that hatch, within a couple hours, was having allergic reactions to it as well. So it is not good for you to be breathing in. And then there's also things like the metals in it as well that you really shouldn't be breathing in, and it's just really, really nasty. You just, if in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to regolith, just don't. Just do not.
Just don't.
So, and it would chew through parts of the Apollo suits as well. So, even today, with today's technology, it is going to be one of the most significant challenges, is making sure that regolith doesn't wreck everything that you bring with you.
Absolutely.
I don't know that this experiment is actually going to fix any of those things, but it's a step in the right direction, right? We got to start somewhere, and this feels like a good starting point.
I do have a quick correction to make. Joker XXX pointed this out. The drill cannot traverse only the one hole. And you're absolutely right. I was mixing it up with the drill that's going to be on the other lander that's going to be landing, the Intuitive Machines one. So that's my bad.
It's so great. It's so great that we have this problem. Like, we're having a hard time keeping track of all of the different lunar missions, right? Yeah, exactly. Like, this is a great problem to have.
It's absolutely a great problem to have.
I apologize for this being potato, but this is about the best that I could see. And yeah, it is potato. I'm sorry. You can see on the left there is scanning electron microscope imagery of sand, and on the right is lunar regolith. And the reason it's so nasty is because sand on Earth gets blown around by the winds. You have an atmosphere to be able to move it around, and so all the particles rub against each other and knock the hard edges off. And lunar regolith does not contain any atmosphere, so it is not affected by wind. So all of those pieces are razor sharp, and they never get broken down to the point where they are have rounded edges. So everything is sharp. It's like walking through a prickly bush.
Sounds like a lovely place to live.
Yeah, let's go.
Owie.
Dare says, just say no to moon dust.
No to moon dust.
NRJ, yeah, this brings back some memories. I liked the design of the vehicle that had attached an EVA suit so that you could get in the back and not getting the suit inside where you stay. That was kind of a cool thing, and I hope that's still on the table. Yeah, the suit.
That's a huge risk, though, because the suit then becomes part of your station's seals.
Yeah,
so if the suit fails, you're screwed.
I think it had another door, but still, like it's another failure point.
Yeah.
The best part's no part.
Let's put all the moving seals in place to be able to control whether or not you can breathe.
Ryan, did you stay up to watch the landing, or did you catch it afterwards?
I was very much enjoying my sleep here at the Margaritaville Hotel, South Padre Island. How many times can I squeeze that in? We'll find out. No, I was very much sleeping because something else I did not anticipate, along with the ridiculous brightness of the sun, is that it turns out being here in person and actually doing physical labor is quite tiring. So I have been absolutely knackered at the end of every single day here. But as soon as I woke up, I went through, watched the replay, and there you go.
Well, welcome to my everyday at Starbase, Ryan.
Ryan, you look exerted.
I'm so dark that you can barely see anything. But
you do look like you're witness protection. Like we should put like a voice modulator on you right now.
Slightly out of focus.
I'm here at an undisclosed location.
There's your next video, Mike. You know, SpaceX employee off the record. You know, it's just Ryan.
Oh my God, Ryan discovers manual labor.
Thanks.
Oh, man.
Actually, hang on. To Ryan's point, I do want to give a huge shout out and credit to everyone who goes down there. It's not just NASA spaceflight. There are a bunch of very passionate people who don't work at SpaceX, who are adjacent and just, we're all the same, right? We all love this stuff. And they go down there, and Ryan's not wrong. It's very hard work. It's very time consuming, labor intensive. And like, there's no guarantee that any of that work you're doing is actually going to do what you need it to do. I think I've lost my camera. There we go. All right. Well,
That's
anyhow,
all right.
the internet did not want me to talk about that.
You're getting too soppy, Jamie. Too soppy.
Oh, man. Only the shadow knows. Oh, man. Well, something that's going to be exciting. We should be getting some results from some of those experiments. They're going to have to get as much as they possibly can before lunar night comes. But even once lunar night does come, before its batteries run out. And Zach, you brought this up during our kind of pre-show discussion that they kept mentioning over and over again that they're hoping to take pictures of lunar sunset and get some starfield pics as well.
Yeah, it'll be nice to see if they can capture what the last Apollo crew documented, which was actually seeing the dust on the surface kind of rise up almost as if it had no gravity. And we've only had sketches of this. We haven't actually been able to capture this. And I'm hoping, I mean, we're still waiting for video, but I'm hoping it's not just still images that we get, but maybe some sort of video time lapse or just normal video that we can really document something that for 50 years has been just a firsthand account. It's never actually been documentedly proven, I guess. But they're also going to have an eclipse while they're on the surface as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what that looks like. So opening up the door of, starting to have a grasp on what it would be like to not be on our planet, but to see our planet going through what we're used to seeing the moon go through.
I'm actually stealing this from Aravel, but if we do get that, would that be considered a Vanden moon? Fog joke. Never mind. Well, in any case, I think we can go ahead and move on. I've got an exciting poll for you guys that I prepared. I'm going to give Ryan a break this week, and Ryan can participate in this one.
Oh, wonderful. I can score some points.
So, wait, first, we need music. We need music.
Well, no, you have to ask the question, then I'll kick the music.
Okay. So here's the question for your poll this week. How many nations have attempted a moon landing, including failures?
All right. Chat room, you have 30 seconds starting now.
3, 4, 5, or 6.
That's right. This is like 15 seconds too long. makes for bad TV, but I don't care.
And remember, be sure to put the hashtag or the pound symbol before your vote. Three nations, 4 nations, 5, or 6?
All right.
Let's go around the room. Jamie, what do you think the correct answer is?
I'm gonna disagree with the chat. I'm gonna say it's 6. Hashtag 6. Oh. You all just love hitting me with the buzzer. You're so excited to be like, no.
Donna, what do you think the answer is?
4.
4? Okay. Oh, sorry. Jared, what do you think the answer is?
I think the answer is 6.
Correct. Good job, Jared. Well, I just gave away the answer. So, Zach, Ryan, what did you guys think the answer was?
I was gonna
Elimination 6.
I was actually going to ask you a follow-up question and ask whether you would count the Soviet Union and Russia as two separate countries or as one country.
Ooh,
Yes.
that's a good one. That's a good technicality, but I considered that as just one nation.
Okay, then. I didn't even say an answer.
I'm gonna update my answer. 6B. We'll just include 2.
I'm giving an extra point to Ryan for pointing out
Thank
that
you.
technicality
'cause of
as well.
my
Wait,
intelligence.
did I thought. Wait, which one are the countries then?
It's 6. So the United States, Russia or Soviet Union, I consider them both. Japan, China, India, and Israel.
Okay.
So 7.
I will say the chat room did get that wrong.
Most of
Right?
the chat
Chat
room
room voted
voted
for 5.
5. But the correct answer is 6. Unless you split up Soviet Union and Russia, then the answer is 7. But I didn't have that answer on here, so maybe that means only Ryan is correct this week. I don't know.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Oh man. Well, I want to go ahead and move on to the next lunar lander that launched, or rather, some of the rideshare missions that launched along with it. The Intuitive Machines' second lunar lander, dubbed Athena, launched recently this week. They launched on Wednesday and had a couple of really cool rideshare missions that went along with it. NASA's Lunar Trailblazer, which is looking for water ice. Astroforge's Odin spacecraft, which is going to attempt to do a flyby of a near-Earth asteroid, take some photos, and determine if it's metal-rich or not. And then also a space tug, a Chimera space tug from a company called Epic Aerospace from Argentina, that's taking a really long route around to eventually place some CubeSats into geostationary orbit. However, unfortunately for all of them, they have had quite a couple of communications issues. They were able to get a couple of pings, and even with NASA's lunar Trailblazer spacecraft, they got initial telemetry, they got their acquisition of signal, and then lost the signal a couple hours later. And I haven't heard any updates yet on whether or not they've been able to get that back. However, we have seen a incredible coming together of the entire space industry, professionals and amateurs alike, to look at ground stations and get as much data as we possibly can and as many attempts as we possibly can to reestablish contact with the spacecraft. It's been really quiet from Epic Aerospace, and I haven't heard a whole lot from them. They initially said that they were getting some data, but then I saw some conflicting stuff, but I didn't know if, whether or not those sources were true or not. So as far as their space tug goes, I don't have a whole lot to say for it. But for Lunar Trailblazer and Astroforge, they're still making as many attempts as they possibly can to restore contact. And even if they don't, there are some automated commands that were pre-programmed into those spacecraft to be able to do their missions. But if they're off by even a little bit of where the spacecraft actually is compared to where its flight computers think they are, things could go wrong if there's any sort of deviance there. But definitely rooting for all of them, and I think that it's really impressive that we had this coming together, especially the amateur. I don't want to call them astronomy, but AM Sat is their name. Their
Astrology.
spread. Yeah, thank you. Not astrology. They've been a huge help to Astroforge, and I have been really happy to see that.
Do they have a rough idea as to root cause? Like any ideas as to what's going on?
No, I have a theory, and it's just my theory. I don't have any proof of this, but last week there were a couple of notices of some strong solar flares that were headed in our direction. And again, I don't have any proof of this, but I suspect that there might be a little bit of interference going on, especially after these spacecraft got out of the Earth's protective shell of its magnetic field and past the Van Allen radiation belts. I haven't seen anything official that is saying that that's what the cause is. That being said, the signals that they have been getting have been like from Astroforge, the signals that they got for their pings were really strong, but they weren't able to establish an uplink downlink and send their commands to it. And even on one of the attempts, they were saying that there was still a strong carrier signal, the carrier signal to establish contact with the spacecraft. That was their carrier signal was so strong because all of these spacecraft are on a direct translunar injection. They're going to be in the vicinity of the moon in just a couple of days. Matter of fact, Intuitive Machines is going to be attempting their landing this Thursday. So only a 7-day journey, like the Apollo missions, a really quick journey there. So the longer they wait, the further these spacecraft are far away. So the carrier signal, excuse me, in order to establish contact, needs to be strong enough to compensate for that distance. And because that signal was so strong, the interference that they were getting, they couldn't tell if they were receiving anything back or not. So it's a bit unfortunate, but for all of those spacecraft, they were able to determine that their solar panels were oriented correctly, that things were turned on. Otherwise, their batteries would have run out in just a couple of hours. So that's encouraging.
And for Odin,
Can you
their
hear me now?
for their last update, they think that it's in a very slow but stable rotation.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know which way it's rotating, but because of that, they're thinking that it will become power positive again and be able to communicate back. But it's going to be at that steady rotation that it turns away isn't power positive and that they're able to make communication. They say right now they're able to connect with some of the larger transmitters on Earth. Specifically India, they mentioned, but India is going down for maintenance at the end of March, so they're not too sure what's going to happen after that on the communication. So, but the solar flares
Correct.
plus a slow spin, you got a couple things you're fighting.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I was looking up some of the space weather reports just now, and it looks like there's going to be a leftovers of an Earth grazing coronal mass ejection rolling through this week. So not good if you've got something like that out there.
Yeah. Sean Taft 8 says, I wonder if a set of Starlinks around the moon could help communication, maybe modified for long-range transfer, or the lasers would seem like with the intentions with the moon, it would only help if it can relay and to the dark side as well as inbound in transition or a second chance to acquire signal. Absolutely. There's a big reason that we need relay satellites. China, for example, when they launched their Chang'e spacecraft, they had a couple of relay satellites that were able to boost their signal network, especially when they attempted their landing on the far side of the moon. And many companies are planning on doing similar things. Firefly was even saying that on their next mission, which is going to be happening around the same time next year, they're going to have a relay satellite that will be launching with their next lander. Intuitive Machines has talked about also sending up relay satellites. They're not on this mission, but possibly for future missions. And it's absolutely something that we need in some sort of network like that to be able to boost signals and have a way to keep in contact. That might not help as much with Odin, but certainly for lunar exploration. Sorry, Dada, go ahead.
I imagine if you actually attain a stable orbit around the moon, that would last for much longer than it would on Earth because you don't have any air drag, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct. And we have Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter that's still up there, coming up on almost dang near 17 years.
Is there any way to utilize something like that's been there for a while with a more robust communications array than the smaller things that we're sending now to be able to help relay the signals?
Possibly. It depends upon how the communication array on Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter was designed. I imagine it was probably designed more for like check-ins over maybe a couple times a week as opposed to like a daily check-in. And that can end up straining motors and things like that on a communications array. So it's very important to be very, very careful with an asset like Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. So we would have to see. Back in the early aughts, there was the idea for two telecommunications orbiters, one for Mars and one for the Moon at that time. But both of those had their budgets pulled in the mid aughts. So it'd been thought of, but nobody has had it come to fruition just yet.
Quick correction: Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter has been up for 15 years, not 17 years. Excuse me.
Chester asks, why the same lander over and over again for 60 years? Get on with it already before we lose this space race. And is there landing video? Come on, it's like we're stuck in a time warp.
Well, I mean, it's not the same lander. It is a different one. This is a brand new one. But I feel that frustration. I do want us to get on with it and kind of pick up the pace here. That
I
means
mean, space shuttle. No, hang on. To answer the question, why? Space shuttle is the answer. Why? Space shuttle absorbed NASA's budget for decades and decades, and it got us stuck in low Earth orbit. We stopped exploring beyond low Earth orbit, and all of our resources went into space station and, everything else. So what is Jared looking at?
Shuttle, his beloved.
My beloved Columbia.
Hey, listen, I am not saying that Space Shuttle wasn't it is hands down the most beautiful spacefaring vehicle to fly, right? Like it was a work of art. It was gorgeous. And it also got us stuck in low Earth orbit for, 30 plus 50 years, right?
Yeah.
Well,
I'll
30,
argue
40.
Two quick things I'll argue for Space Shuttle. One, it is a material science tour de force. The things that had to be developed in order to make the Space Shuttle work took a lot of effort in order to do that, and advanced us by leaps and bounds with that. Two, the vast majority of hypersonic research that occurred in the United States was because of the Space Shuttle. And three, a lot of things that Starship, the actual Starship spacecraft, is employing. You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing that Space Shuttle. I'm not saying that Space Shuttle had
Just making
anything.
sure.
Yeah. But it did get us stuck in low Earth orbit for a very long time. And so when people are asking, like, why is it taking so long to get back to the moon? A large chunk of the reason it took so long is because of Space Shuttle. It's because it's the politics behind it. Not because it was a horrible vehicle. It's because of all of the things that were kind of orbiting shuttle, right? Politics, desire, the International Space Station, like, I'll say politics again because it usually comes down to politics, money and how all of that was divvied up. Like, all of that fundamentally got cut up because of shuttle and in ways that weren't super great. And then we had anomalies with shuttle that were awful. And we just got stuck in low Earth orbit. And it's taken this long to unstick us mentally as humanity and start going back to the moon. And now I would argue we're going back in force, right? Like, we're going back so much, we're having a hard time keeping all the programs straight in our head.
Yeah,
that is a great problem to have. Absolutely. Shuttle went away, took a moment for us to reset. Here we go, going back.
3 landers in a few months period feels like a good pace for now. Just keep going.
Yeah. Like, this is a great time to be alive. Absolutely. Like, we're doing some really cool things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've talked to some people at NASA that, no one wants to call it that, but shuttle is like the most amazing but slightly worse delay thing that's happened in the space history program. We've learned so much, but because of that, we did get stuck in low Earth orbit. But now looking at that, what would we not have known by now being able to live on low Earth orbit for 25 years straight that has prepared us to be ready to have a lunar station, a lunar base, onto Mars, that we would have had to try to learn there rather than in a safer spot of Leo. So it's kind of it's a weird thing if we've been stuck, and a lot of people recognize that and aren't happy about it, but maybe we've learned easier than maybe some of the learns would have been harder if we were further away.
It's like wishing you met your soulmate earlier in life, but not realizing you wouldn't have been ready.
Exactly.
Fazilla, I'm confused. The very factual documentary For All Mankind has the shuttle in lunar orbit. For anyone who's not watched For All Mankind, I actually really enjoy it. I believe it's an Apple Plus, Apple TV Plus, or whatever that is, documentary. I know, but it is an interesting, like, what would have happened if we didn't lose our will to explore? what if we just kept going, right? Like
I don't think we've
it's
lost our
interesting.
will to explore.
Yeah, we haven't lost it.
Okay.
It's just
Never
evolved
forget
in a
what they
different
stole
way
from
than everyone
us.
wanted.
Never
Strawman-
forget what they took from us. Reusable Saturn,
It's
Apollo
it's
Plus.
it's all
Oh.
funding and it's all funding in politics.
Yeah, but I mean, we the people have the ability to vote in other people who want to make this go. We, the space community, obviously want this, right? Like, but we are not the mass of people on Earth, right? Like, most people do not think about this. Most people are not tuning in every Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern to nerd out over space, right? Like,
Clearly.
we are the few, right? So we did like well, actually, hang on. I'm going to argue against my own point. We never had the will to go, right? Like you go back to the Apollo era. If you look at the polls for how many people supported Apollo before we landed on the moon, it was not good.
It's pretty dismal.
It was not good.
Yep.
Yeah, we actually have more will to go now than we did pre-Apollo. That right?
I
So
think I would argue that we don't have more will, but we have more tolerance.
explain that.
The I'm failing to have words right now.
Okay.
Tolerance or acceptance. There's a lot. We're coming around, and I think people are starting to recognize at least some of the advantages that have been gleaned from years and years and years of spaceflight research and how that can positively affect their lives. GPS, for example, or all of your magnificent apps in your phone being able to instantly get video from around the world, or things like comfy mattresses or instant food. A lot of that stuff stemmed from research that was done in as far back as the 50s, and all the way up until more recently with some of the experiments on ISS and things like that. Maybe not everybody is able to connect it, but they're still attracted by the wonder of it, and are therefore more tolerant of it. And it's still such a small piece of the budget that we're spending. You still get the naysayers of, I don't want you spending my money to go research space. We've still got problems here, but like, we're not. We're spending it here to go research there. And I think that the people are maybe starting to soften a little bit about how stringent they are about where their money is spent.
I'm going to disagree with you. I don't think most people think about these things. I don't think most people think about. I know it's fun. I don't think most people think about what's coming from space, or like how GPS impacts it. They don't, when they go into their car and they punch in their destination on the map that's built into their car, they don't think, oh, this was enabled by space. They just need to get to their destination. It never crosses their mind that this is a spacefaring technology. I think actually it's Rick V in the chat room who I think actually may have hit the nail on the head, which is new funding models and incentives are the game changers. Absolutely. I think now people are seeing the ability to make money in aerospace. The old joke was, how do you become a millionaire in aerospace? Start a billionaire, right? So, but I don't think that's true anymore. I don't think that aerospace is a thing where you're just going to lose tons and tons of money. You're seeing a couple of different companies where they're actually starting to create real results, and you're seeing that come to fruition, which means it's entering into markets, it's entering into the normal culture a little bit more, because it's just based on money, and that's just the cold, harsh reality of the world we live in. Like, if there's no buck Rogers, and then people want to see how they can better their lives through those investments. That was a very disjointed way of getting there, but
yeah, I certainly agree with that.
I agree with Melanie. My childhood was significantly impacted by the space community due to early exposure via Krista McAuliffe Elementary School. I was hooked on space early, and I think there's maybe pockets of populations that raised at just the right time and exposed in just the right way that actually has that as a foundational memory in their core of having some interest in space, whether it's proceeded or not, and whether we've been able to satisfy their longing or not. They've got something in there that still finds fascination and is more accepting. And then the increased popularity of sci-fi movies or sci-fi TV shows that highlight space as part of the reality of that ecosystem, the Expanse and For All Mankind and Gravity and on and on, Star Trek, Star Wars. A lot of those things are at least in the popular culture acknowledged for what they are.
I think it's interesting looking at the popularity as well, because there's a friend that I know that for the last 4 or 5 years, huh? We
Finish your
exist.
thought. Finish your thought, Zach, and we'll come back to that. Yeah.
Yeah. It exists. The popularity, I think, because of social media, has also been a big change to it as well. And there's a guy I know that's been just going out randomly asking people, "Hey, can I have 60 seconds of your time? Did you know we're going back to the moon?" And he's been doing this since just before Inspiration 4. And it's been amazing to see how pre the Starship test flights, the full stacked ones, how many people said no, and now how many people are saying yes. And it's because we had kind of one of those pivotal moments that broke the world seeing Starship fly, and then broke it again seeing it be caught, the booster being caught, that it's smashed the door open for the world realizing, hey, this is happening and it's happening now having 3 lunar landers at the same time. Like, those are stories the normal media that normally ignores space can't ignore now, because they're such milestones. And I think that's helping maybe also drive us faster than was, say, 20, 30 years ago. Because I mean, look at Apollo. By Apollo 13, no one really cared until there was a major issue. Same thing with Shuttle until it was announced it was retiring. Yes, some people more were watching, but a lot of people started to, it became normal. Starlinks were amazing the first 2 or 3 launches, and now everyone's like, oh, it's the 6th Starlink of the month. It's just kind of a normal thing, but then we're seeing how Starlink is truly changing humanity in communications. I mean, if you watch the video they put out a couple of days ago, I mean, that ad just shows how the world is connected completely differently than it was 5 years ago. And if we can deploy that out further, I'm excited what's going to look like in 5 years, because I don't think we can envision it because we don't know where it's going.
Well,
It's an exciting time to be alive.
anytime a space company makes a 6 o'clock news, you get Perseverance and Curiosity landing on from JPL, and you show a bunch of nerdy scientists eating peanuts and cheering. Like, what's that about?
Unless it's Starliner.
It's better if you make the 6 o'clock news with video of your lunar landing, Firefly. Astro Knucklehead asked, and let's go into this. This is a $5 super chat. Hey, Zach, and thank you, by the way, for the super chat, Astro Knucklehead. Knucklehead, there we go. Hey, Zach, can you give us a quick snap? That's what it'd be, right? It's a Canuck, right?
Yeah.
So it'd be Knucklehead. Can you give us a quick snapshot of what the Canadian Space Agency's up to, eh? Been quiet again. I added the A for you.
Do I want to pull out my Canadian voice accent? No.
Oh, you absolutely do. Yes, you do. Full screen that on the accent. Let's go.
I know how to do it when it's not space related, but we'll see if it comes out. They're preparing for Artemis 2. If that crew will go eventually. How they go, asterisk. We'll talk about that later. But that's really been the big focus. CSA's always been quiet. That's something I've kind of complained about even growing up in Canada, is it wasn't something we knew what was happening. I knew of it because we traveled to the States and we followed NASA. The Canadian Space Agency, I never heard about in school. It's not part of our educational curriculum. It's not. So they're working on, CSA through contracts. I have some friends that are working on Canadarm3 for Gateway when/if that happens. But it's a lot of assigning contracts and other people are doing work, which I think we're seeing success in globally, but it's not nearly as exciting as some of the other private companies that are in the States, unfortunately. Says a Canadian taxpayer, A.
You guys don't even have Canada Arm merch? Like, you don't have, like, Canada Arm, like, grabbers or anything like that? No
They have-
childhood games? Who's the bigger Canada Arm? What
They
the
have
heck?
a Canada Arm hoodie, but it's not. Most Canadians don't know the Canada Arm exists, let alone has had variations. And that Canada Arm 2 on station, I mean, Space Station only exists because Canada Arm on shuttle functioned. You know, that was a big part of it, and that's a part of the ISS history that doesn't get taught. And that's where I've said for years the education in Canada, and I mean even in the States, has missed the last 45 years of space development. And talking with, like Detta said, of like people knowing what's come out of it. We know it, we're space nerds, but how many people know this thing is like 50 times more powerful than the entire program that landed us on the moon now?
So
Like,
is that a marketing problem?
marketing problem, people that write curriculum that see it as importance problem. I talked to a couple representatives in our government that I said, growing up there, every kid wanted to be an astronaut when shuttle was flying. There was not a path to lead me into anything in the space industry. It was astronaut or not. And even that was, you want to be an astronaut, become American. There wasn't become a Canadian astronaut. We've trained, I think, 7. I think we're now at 4 or 5 have flown, if we're including MLA with the private missions. You know, as a major partner, we're not doing much.
Zach, you bring up a really interesting point, which is I'll rail on shuttle for us getting stuck in low Earth orbit. I fundamentally blame the shuttle program for that. But the shuttle was inspiring, right? Like, who here was not inspired by the shuttle? Every time it launched, it looked amazing. Shuttle was glorious to the end. It truly was, right? Stuck in Leo or not, it was a glorious vehicle and it was cool. It was really, really cool. And when we lost shuttle, I don't know that we've had that really cool thing come back into play. Starship is doing better, right? Because it kind of looks like something out of a sci-fi film. But, like, I don't know. It's not the same. It's not this Sierra Nevada, but they're not flying yet, right? Dream Chaser.
Hopefully this
Anyhow.
year, but we'll see.
I'm not even sure Dream Chaser will have near the power of it because you're not even going to see it when it flies. It's going to be hidden in fairings, and it's not going to have
You'll see it when
they
it
took a
reacts.
plane and strapped it on the side. That was the crazy factor. It didn't look like it should work.
Good point, Ryan. We'll at least see it when it lands.
Not the same.
Yeah.
I think there was shuttle was enough of a dirty vehicle that it had details where you could easily discern its size. So seeing something that big do what it was doing, and the offset, the off center thrust, and the shuttle stuck on the back of the tanks, and just like how everything operated and the process and discarding the boosters and all that. There was something majestic about it launching every single time. It must have been wonderful to see it in person.
It was, Dada. It really was. Actually, that is the correct word. It was majestic. It was the most majestic. It was like majestically angry lifting off the pad.
But
Those
like,
solids were just like, here we go. All right, we have diverted from lunar rideshare comms issues.
That's okay.
I mean,
that's okay.
It's natural part of the conversation, right? This is why you watch Tomorrows. We never know where the conversation is going to go. It's part of the fun, right? Like, it's just a bunch of space nerds getting out, hanging out, nerding out over space, right? That's
right.
the whole point of the show.
Well, I've actually got another poll for you guys, but before that, go back to that comment. What did GTH just say? Good point, Detta. Just the size of the tank was impressive in terms of those little engines drinking all that in a few minutes. Not little, but yeah, no, good point. Well, I would like to tease your guys' brains a little bit. This is something that some folks may or may not know, but does anyone remember way back in the day, Lockheed Martin's Orion capsule started as a spaceplane concept? True or false?
All right, chat room. There's the music. The Orion capsule. Before Artemis. Well, this would be the Constellation era then?
Yeah, at the beginning of the Constellation era, they were looking for proposals for what they called at the time the Crew Exploration Vehicle. Okay. And Lockheed had, amongst several others, there was Boeing, Rocket Plane Kistler, even Draper Laboratories had a concept. But yeah, what do you guys think? Ooh, it looks like the chat room is split right down the middle right now of true or false. Jamie, what do you think?
Lockheed Martin's Orion capsule started as a space plane. I actually think that's true. I believe that they were probably going to try to leverage something from Space Shuttle. And yeah, I'm going to say true. Before you do the buzzers, let's go across the room. Let's do all the hosts and we'll do the chat room last.
Okay. Dada, what do you think?
Everything that I'm seeing about it says no.
You're Googling it? That's cheating.
That's cheating. You're not allowed to cheat.
I didn't actually vote, so it won't be recorded.
Jared, what do you think?
I believe it's true, and I believe there was also stuff that it had like a service module and other things that were external to the actual vehicle itself.
Are you talking about Altair, the lander?
No, I'm talking
not the
like
lunar
it had
lander.
its own service module. So,
Zach, what do you think? True or false?
I hope it's true. We need more space planes.
And Ryan, what do you think?
I actually have no idea. I was going to say false, then everyone else said true. So now I'm doubting myself. So I'll say true.
Right on. Well, the answer is actually true. So for those
smart.
of you who voted true, got that correct. And I would like to just show you guys this. This is a concept. This is a render that was done by Mac Crawford or Mackenzie Crawford. This was what their proposal was going to be, their crew exploration vehicle. And you are correct, Jared, that it had its own service module. It even had a little orbital module where they would have, a bathroom and a couple other facilities on its journey towards the space station. They even had lunar concepts for this bad boy. And this would be about the same size. The space plane part of it itself would probably be around the same size, a little bit bigger than a Dream Chaser, but same sort of concept of it being a lifting body before going to before returning to Earth. So yeah, that was Lockheed's original vision, was for a small space plane with a service module and an orbital module. And NASA said, that thanks, but we actually want a capsule. We're selecting you because we like you the best, but we want a capsule. Oh, but it can't be by any of your existing tooling, so we wanted these specs instead. But anyway, yeah, just a little bit of trivia of early 2000s concepts when NASA first put out those proposals for their crew exploration vehicle to support the Constellation program.
That would
All
have
right,
been
can you
so
go back to poll 2? I want to see what the results were of the chat.
Let's see.
They said true. They got it right.
Yeah, chat room got it right. Good job, everybody.
good job, chat room.
I'm proud of all of you. Yes, looks like a hot rod. Yeah. They definitely had a cool idea for that. No idea how much it would have cost, but still a cool idea.
Congratulations, chat room. You got one right. All right, I know we're running a little bit long, but I think we've got one last topic. I don't think it's going to be a super long one.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of give a quick update Well, Ryan might actually have a few more thoughts about this, but we had a really interesting earnings call from Rocket Lab that gave a few more details on their upcoming Neutron rocket, including that they have acquired a barge and have given it a wonderful name. They're going to call it Return on Investment, which I think is hilarious. They also introduced a Starlink competitor satellite called Flat-alite because it's, a flat, flatellite. So that's really interesting. And the Progress vehicle just launched recently and has already arrived at the International Space Station, and docking went okay. It is at the back end port of the Zvezda module, which is where all the leaks are coming from. So I'm hoping that they will be doing whatever safety stuff that they can to see how much air pressure they might lose when that hatch is opened. But we'll see. And then beyond that, we have quite a few interesting launches. I mean, even just later today, there's going to be another Soyuz launch that's launching the next generation GLONASS satellite, which is the Russian version of GPS satellites. We're also going to have an Ariane 6 launching this week, which is pretty exciting. It's the second launch ever of the Ariane 6, and it's going to be launching a military payload for the French military. We also have the launch of the Sphere-X and Punch missions coming up this week. Obviously, the Starship launch, hopefully happening tomorrow, which Ryan is here for there in Texas to prepare to do their coverage for that. And then aside from that, we also have several boring Starlink launches. Nobody cares anymore.
Blah, blah, blah.
But yeah, I thought it was just interesting that we have so much stuff coming up this week. Oh, and don't forget, also Thursday is the attempted landing of the Intuitive Machines Athena lander, as long as everything goes well with their capture into lunar orbit before that landing attempt. So yeah, what do we think? Is it going to tip over? Is it going to be okay this time? I don't know. I really want it to succeed.
We should have another poll: tip or no tip. What angle will it land at? Guess exactly. Guess the angle. Yeah.
Guess the angle. Oh, thank you.
Also, a huge thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Thank you very much to Someone Exchangeable. I like your username for becoming a member. It's very much appreciated.
Speaking of membership, we're going to slide into the member. Oh, hey, hang on. I have a new fun member graphic that I want to know what you guys think, because I kind of want the member show to feel like a fun exclusive club. And so I created a new member show using Grok, actually. This background graphic was created by Grok after me bugging it a few times. What do we think? Do we like the general vibe, right?
I like
put
it.
Your smoking jacket on, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to be heading into the member show here in a moment. And to get access to the member show, you just need to become a member of Tomorrow. And you can do that at youtube.com/TMRO/join. And we have got a slew of different members who help to make this show happen week after week, month after month. And I do want to say, I give a huge thank you. I should have had my notes here ready. Oh, man, I closed it. Well, we highlight them in yellow, so hopefully you can see them on the screen. Someone who has better vision than me. There we go. We've got Raul Santos. We've got Chris Almquist, Tech Tinker Prince, Joe Case, Morton Vanvik, and Traveling Joe, who have either restarted their membership or become new members. And then actually, normally we only get new members in the ground support, but this week we actually got suborbital. Bruce McKean rejoined as a member, and then we have two new members, Jim Chapman and Joni Mahoney. Thank you. Oh, Joni Mahoney also in the chat room as well this week. So thank you very much for your membership. We also have Orbital. No new members in Orbital this week. Everyone who's been in Orbital has been there for 30 or 60 months at this point. So thank you everyone to Orbital. And of course, we also have our Escape Velocity members. Again, everyone in Escape Velocity has been supporting the show for a very, very, very long time. And anyone who's a member, whether you get your name in the show or not, all the way down to the system support level, will be able to watch our member show here coming up in just a few moments.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today, and hope that you were able to learn something and have a little bit of fun for this. Definitely leave us a comment about what your thoughts are for whether or not Intuitive Machines is going to be successful the second time around. Be sure to do all the YouTube stuff as well. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that sort of stuff. And once again, thank you very much for being here and joining us. And thanks to everyone on the crew for coming here and taking part in this today. It's much appreciated. And with that being said, I think we're going to go ahead and head on over to the members show and keep up the fun. We'll see you guys in over there in just a little bit. And for the rest of you, we'll see you next time.